So this week we're going to talk about bar and circle graphs and how to solve % of numbers. So something super important up here, I have a bar, or sorry, not a bar graph. I have a big H given to you on your paper. This is going to be a very specific big H. It's called the % of a number, big H, okay? So this, anytime they ask you what's the % of something or they give you a %, you can use this same big H and solve for any kind of problem. So our labels are going to be part up here in the left over total. And this is really a % proportion. It's just catchier to say it's a big H. Y'all can kind of remember how to draw a big H. So we have part over total. Here, they're going to be numbers in these 4 boxes, but know that you'll have actual numbers here, whatever number they give you, and % numbers here. Okay, and then always know that total, this will be total number, total %. Your total % is always 100%, okay? And then these numbers will change depending on the question or whatever information they give you. So, pause the video, make sure you have this because we're going to be using this for the rest of the notes. So, here we have a bar graph. I have the color tiles. I have red, blue, green, and yellow, and the number of tiles, let's say, that are in a bag or something. So, what I want to do is label the number of tiles per color. So, let's say red looks like, if I look at the graph, it looks a little bit under 21. So I'm going to say there's about 20 red tiles. Okay. Blue looks to be right under 9. So I'm going to say there's 8 blue tiles. Green is right on this line. So that's about 12 right there. So there's 12 green tiles. And then yellow's right above the 9. So I'm going to say there's 10 yellow tiles. So these are your part numbers. Okay, so if they ask you any question about % of certain colors, these are the part numbers that you're going to use in your big H. So they'll probably go up here. Now, we've got to figure out the total number of tiles. So using these, I want to figure out the total. Well, all you have to do is add. So 20 plus 8 is 28, and 12 plus 10 is 22. Well, we know that 28 plus 22 is 50. So this is your total number whenever we're talking about our big H, and you have to solve that number you're going to use in your big H. So number 1, and if I'm going too fast, just go ahead and pause the video, just trying to get through this. What % of the tiles are blue? Okay, so we don't know the percentage, so we're going to draw our big H. Doesn't have to be beautiful, just a big H. We have P over T, that stands for part, and that stands for total. Up here, this is our numbers. And you don't have to write these. I just like to label them so you remember. We have our numbers and our percentages. Well, let's fill in what we know, what we're given, okay? Well, always, 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 our total % is always 100. We know that no matter what. That's something you've got to memorize. Then they're asking what % of the tiles are blue. Well, I don't know that, so I'm going to skip that part. But I do know the number of tiles that are blue is over here. We know that there are 8 blue tiles. And then I got to figure out the total number of tiles that are, or not blue, just the total number of tiles in the whole process. That would be 50. Okay, and I don't know the %, so that's going to be our X. Now, if you see zeros that are either next to each other or on top of each other, get excited because that just made it a little bit easier for you. If I have 1 0 here, I can cross that out, and I can also cross out 1 0 there. Okay, if they were on top of each other, you could do the same thing. You cannot cross out both on this side. You can only cross out 1 because you only have 1 there. Then all you have to do is cross multiply 8 times 10, which is 80, divided by that number that's left over, which is this 5. Okay, that 5 we didn't touch yet, so that goes on the outside. 5 goes into 8 1 time, which is 5. I subtract and I bring down my 0. Don't forget that. 5 goes into 30 6 times exactly, which is 30. And so what % of tiles are blue? 16%. Okay? Pretty easy. So just make sure you're using the big H process. Let's move on to number 2. What % of the tiles are red? Well, I do my part over my total. I have my number. I have my percentage. And we always know our % total is 100. That's always going to be there. Now, what % of the tiles are red? I don't know that. That's going to be X. How many of the tiles are red? What number is your part? How many are red here? That would be 20. And then what's the total number of tiles altogether is 50. Now, you can cancel out zeros like we did before, but I also see some that are right on top of each other. So I'm going to go ahead and cross these out. You don't have any more over here, so you can't cross out for any from the 100. It's going to stay at 100. So now I just have 2 over 5, which is a lot easier to multiply and divide with. So I'm going to cross multiply. That's now a 2 times 100, which is 200, divided by this leftover 5. Okay. 5 goes into 20, not 2. Doesn't go into 2 at all, so you skip to that second zero. So you say 5 goes into 20 4 times, which is exactly 20. And we're not done because you have to bring down the 0. 5 goes into 0, 0 times. Now you're done. So what percent of the tiles are red? 40%. Okay, pause the video. We're going to move on to circle graphs. All right, so with circle graphs, it's a little different. Know that the total is always 100%. So the total percentage is still always 100. All circle graphs add up to 100%. Now here they gave us the percentages. So I'm going to be kind of working backwards and figuring out what number of students does this percentage represent, or this percentage, or that percentage. So you are still going to use the same big H with the same parts, the same totals, except now you have different numbers that you were given. So number 1 says, if 100 students prefer playing sports, which was 40%, then what was the total number of students surveyed? So I'm talking about playing sports, which is right here. They gave me, that's 40%. They also said that that is 100 students. Okay? So I know that 40% is the same thing as 100 students. So using that, I want to figure out, well, how many total kids did they ask their favorite sport or their favorite fitness challenge? So we're going to do part over total. I still have my numbers. I still have my percentages. I still have 100% as my total. Now, the part, which is playing sports, the number, well, we know that's 100 students, okay? I know that 100 students like playing sports. I also know that 40% of the students like playing sports, so that goes here. Now I just have to figure out what's the total, so that's X. Now I have some zeros that I can cancel out. Don't cancel across because that's going to mess you up, okay? But you can cancel on top or next to each other. So I'm just going to do on top and bottom. So I have a 0 here, so I'm going to cancel out 1 0 there. You cannot get rid of all the zeros just because you see a lot of zeros. You only can do 1 to each side, okay? It could be here and here or here and here. Either way, you cannot cancel out all the zeros. So what I'm left here with is a 10 and a 100. Whatever's across diagonally, that's what you multiply. So 100 times 10 is 10. I'm sorry, 1,000, because you have 1 times 1, which is 1, and then you add the 3 zeros left over, so it's 1,000. And then I'm just dividing by that number that's left over, the 4. I want to figure out how many times is 4 going to 1,000. So 4 goes into 10 2 times, which is 8. Bring down the 0. 4 goes into 20 5 times, which is exactly 20. And it's not 25, I'm not done. I have to bring down this leftover 0. 4 goes into 0 0 times, so now you're done. Now this is not 250%. They want to know the total number of students that they asked about their favorite sport or favorite fitness challenge. So that means there's 250 total students that they asked. Okay? Now let's use that number to solve number 2. What number of students chose running as their favorite fitness challenge? So part over total. This is our number. This is our percent. I know the total percentage is always 100. And then we're talking about running. Well, look at the circle graph. If I see running, I see that that is 30%. So that's my part. So that is going to go right here. But I want to know what number of students chose running. What's the part? Well, we don't know that. But do we know the total? Yes, we just figured it out. 250. Okay? So, what you're going to do, you have zeros on top of each other and side to side. So here's something interesting. You can get rid of this and this, and then I'm still left with some zeros side to side. You can't do it diagonally, but you can do top and bottom, side to side. Okay? So you could do 250 and 10. We'll get rid of those zeros. Now you have 25, 3, and 1. Way easier to multiply than 30, 100, and 250. So now I'm just going to cross multiply 25 times 3, which is 75. And 75 divided by 1 is still 75. Okay? So really this number is not a percentage, it's 75 students. Okay? That means 30% is the same thing as 75 students who like to run. Okay? Now, sometimes they're not even going to ask you to do all this mathematical work. You might just are given a question and you could solve it pretty easily. So it says compare the percentage of students who prefer lifting weight, swimming, and running to the percentage of students playing sports. Okay, so we have lifting weights, which is 8% right here. We have swimming, which is 5%. And then we have running, which is 30%. So what I want to do is combine those percentages, because I don't need to know the number of people. They're just saying compare the percentages. So 8 plus 5 is 13. 13 plus 30 is 43% total. Okay, so that's lifting, swimming, and running. And then I have the percentage of students who play sports, which is 40%. Because they gave that to us over here. And all they want to know is compare them. So obviously you can compare and say that lifting weights, swimming, and running is more than those who prefer playing sports. And that's pretty much it. That didn't require us to do any kind of big H. You just have to kind of read the graph, combine the percentages, and then just compare the percentages. All right? If you have any questions, just email me, email your teacher, message them on Teams, and good luck.